Welcome back to our podcast, Past to Future, third episode. If you haven't seen the first episode and the second one, make sure you go watch that back because we hosted some very interesting guests. In the first episode, Simone Bollaceroni joined us, Netflix star of the moment of the successful movie The Tearsmith. And in the second episode, we hosted a fashion brand owner, Jordan Tabone from New York. Welcome back to our podcast. Let me introduce you to our special guest of the day. Lucrezia Licheri is a fashion designer based in Paris and London, originally from Italy. In the past, she worked for numerous luxury maisons such as Valentino and is currently working for a company that sells designs to various luxurious maisons. How are you, Lucrezia, first of all? Can you hear us?
Hi, hello, how are you?
We're good. Thank you so much for taking your time to join our podcast. Let's get back into the podcast. I wanted to ask you, first of all, that's something that a lot of people wonder. What does a typical day look like in the life of a fashion designer?
So, when we get to the office, it's always kind of overwhelming because we're so busy. So from the day before to the morning, we always have something to do. So you start off with all the simple tasks, but then it gets busier and busier because obviously we have collections going on. Currently we're working on for example the next winter collection, and it's summer almost at the moment, so it's quite intense because we have to deliver these collections around summertime, so it's always busy. And a day as a fashion designer is always different. One day you have it easy, the other day everything can go wrong, so it's quite unpredictable. So there's not just a day as a fashion designer. It's every day is different.
That's very interesting to hear, particularly when talking about working under pressure, because you obviously have a lot of deadlines, as you mentioned.
Exactly.
When did you discover your passion for fashion design? I know you won many awards at the London Fashion Week and you got offered multiple opportunities. And I also wanted to ask you, how did your journey start from scratch to joining Valentino?
Okay, so from the first question, my passion actually, it seems like a cliche, but it actually started since I was a kid. I used to buy those books with all the sketches that you have to fill in the colors, and I was so passionate about it. I used to make sketches about tennis dresses and all this sort of stuff. And then I went to an art school in high school, and then that's where my passion started to feel actually real, that I want to do this as a job. And so I went to university and I did fashion design, and then I realized, as I said, I want to do this for life. And then what was the other question? Sorry.
The other question was, that was a very long question, sorry for that.
Yeah.
The other question was, how did your journey start from ending your studies to joining Valentino?
So it was quite a long journey. So when I graduated, obviously I couldn't find a job at first, but in fashion is so unpredictable. One day you have something, the other day you don't. But I landed a fashion job, and then after another, and all these little jobs for startups, they made me grow so much as a designer. And also working for startups sometimes is even better rather than working for big brands, because you get to have more spotlight, and then you learn more. And then after working for various brands, I landed my job at Valentino, and here now.
That's very interesting. What's your, who's your favorite fashion designer of all time? Because as you know, there's so many great designers that made history in the fashion industry. And what impact did that favorite fashion designer have on your personal style?
Yeah, so my favorite ever as a personality and like looks and like the way he draws and like creates collections is Alessandro Michele. He recently left Gucci, and then now he's like the new creative director of Valentino, actually. So I just find him so interesting how he changed Gucci on his own way. Like, he just created like some amazing designs, like very baroque and style inspired. It's just very interesting to see what he's done to the brand. And looking at Gucci like a few years ago, it was a bit boring to me, but I feel like he changed it and he gave it a bit of personality. So and also like he inspired me so much for creating like my final collection at uni. I remember it was inspired on his collections. So he had like a very big impact on my designs.
I think what he has done with Gucci especially is unbelievable. He brought the brand to another level, in my opinion. And I completely agree with you. He completely changed the aesthetic of the brand. And everyone was quite sad when he left the brand, actually.
I know, I was very sad.
I'm very curious to see what he's going to bring to Valentino. As you might know, Past to Future, our blog and podcast, curates trends from the past and the future. And my question for you is, how do designers follow trends? Like, does the brand communicate with you and tell you, listen, we want to follow this trend, or do you have your own choice?
So obviously, like every season has a trend, has its own trend. And so our job as designer is to predict these trends by looking at what's coming out. It's very hard to like predict a trend. There is actually like people that have a job as trend forecaster, but like sometimes as I work for like small companies, you had to do it all. So like you basically have to be all the time on social media, you have to be on Vogue all the time, you have to like just keep up like with every color palette that is out. So it's like very hard, but at the same time I feel like when you look at a Vogue runway, you see one item that could be big and you see it. For example, you see a bag of a certain color, and then you say, okay, this is gonna be like a big thing next season, but you need to have the eye to kind of have a look at it. So yeah, it's kind of hard.
That's very interesting. I feel like a lot of our listeners didn't know that. I didn't know it either, that there were trends forecasters in brands. I had no idea about that, but that's very interesting. I saw on your socials that you're working on your own brand. Talk us through that. Obviously, you're already an expert when it comes to designing clothes. And what made you create your own brand?
So, what made me create my own brand? So, when you work for obviously someone else, like another brand, you don't always have like, free way of like designing. You always have like obviously the brand as its own aesthetic, and you have to follow that aesthetic. But with me creating my own brand is that I want to choose my own aesthetic. I just want to bring like the design that I like without anyone telling me what's good, what's wrong. I feel like I have experience now, and I feel like I can do that sort of decisions. And also I just feel like it's important to like bring like a new brand to all the brands that are coming up now.
Of course.
Like something different, something more out there. So yeah, that's my aim. And it's kind of hard, obviously, because you have to follow everything alone, and you have to speak to manufacturers. You have to think about the marketing and every like aspect. So everything needs to be curated perfectly. But after that, I hope it's gonna go well. Let's see.
That's very interesting. Like nowadays, almost everyone owns a brand, we can say that. But at the same time, the people that should own a brand, that are actually experts in the industry, don't have their own brand. So that's
Yeah,
very cool.
exactly.
I'm really looking
And we see
forward.
so many celebrities creating their own brands. So yeah, I feel like more like young designers should go out there and like create something new.
Exactly. Talking about young designers, is there any advice you would give to someone that likes to draw and design clothes and wants to start a career in the fashion industry, maybe working for a popular maison like you do, or starting their own brand?
Yeah, so I feel like my number one advice that I will give to someone that wants to start in the fashion industry is to be patient. I'm not very patient myself, but I've kind of learned to be because in this industry you just need to catch the right opportunity at the right time. Like it doesn't come all the time. You just have to like start from the bottom and go to the top. So I think this is really, really important. And also like be tough. You really need to be tough in some kind of situation in the fashion industry. So never take anything personal. Just go with the flow, and yeah, that's my advice.
There you go, young designers listening. You heard the advice. Make sure to follow Lucrezia on her socials. Thank you so much for joining us, Lucrezia. It's been a pleasure having you here. And for you guys listening, thank you for listening. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode.